Ladies and gentlemen, it is a beautiful day to apply some logic and confess the truth. I'm Megan Steele, and welcome to the very first episode of Confessions of a School Nurse. I am so honored to have you here listening on this very special day in 2023. It's School Nurse Day, and celebrate with me as we start getting the truth out and standing for it. I have to let you know that I have been thinking about this podcast for the past 2 years, but simply out of fear, I have withheld the start of it. I feared losing my PhD, I feared what others might think, and I feared that I would lose my job and my way of providing for my family. But I made the decision around Christmas time of 2022 that I am drawing the line in the sand and I am standing for the truth. I refuse to stand on the sidelines of this game called indoctrinate our children. It's time to get in the game and play the best offense and defense that we have ever played. Our children, our students, our youth, they are worth fighting for. School nurses, we are witnessing firsthand the horrific indoctrination of our youth, and quite frankly, our colleagues as well. We see the classrooms changing. We see the medical field changing. We see the lies being told. And unfortunately, we see the horrific damage occurring to our students. And for years, and especially the last 3 years, we have just, kind of gone with that status quo. The status quo is damaging our youth. We have to go back to the basics of school nursing, which is student-centered, ethical, evidence-based, compassionate care. We need to stand firm, draw our line in the sand, and say no more. We cannot continue to turn a blind eye to the evil occurring. Turning a blind eye doesn't cause the evil to disappear. It allows it to grow and foster, and that's not okay. Protecting our own convenience will only result in negative consequences down the road. I ask you to join me in standing for the truth and standing for the youth in our school because they need us. They need you to be the truth for them. I'm asking that you stand with me and do the job that we've always wanted to do, that we've always tried to do, but we've just been hiding in the closet, just kind of going with the status quo. It is now time to confess the truth, support the truth, and be the truth. And it's gonna be uncomfortable and we're gonna be persecuted, but you're not gonna be alone because all of us are gonna be in your corner. And let's be real, what is more terrible than pissing off a school nurse? It's being a pissed off mama bear that's protecting her young. So ladies and gentlemen, let's stand and let's fight for our youth. And here's how I plan to do that. Over the next few months, I will release a podcast twice a month. I hope to do this on the 10th and the 22nd of each month, and I want to partner with you, and I want you to partner with me. I want to help you. I want to encourage you. I want to provide a place of support, because to stand against evil is going to be painful. I know I've been trying really hard to do this for the past 2 years, and we're going to need each other. So I want to hear from you. What are you struggling with? What do you need? Have a great resource that you want to share? Then please come and let's do that. Have a topic that you want me to cover? Let me know. Want to join me for a session? Let's go. Let's do this. We're all in it together. But I think really to kind of start off with this podcast, I need to kind of let you know how I got to this day and why school nursing and education is so important for me. Back in the mid-spring of 2021, I posted a question to the National Association of School Nurses, School NurseNet Communication Forum. I was asking if there were any conservative school nurses to please contact me. And when I asked this question, I was just hoping that one person would reach out to me. I was caring for a student at a private Christian school that was struggling with homosexuality. I did not know that this student was struggling with this issue, but the parents had secretly reached out to me for help. And the parents identified as being conservative, and I wanted to be able to provide them with resources that would help. I didn't have any resources that were conservative, and so I posted this question on the forum because I was thinking, well, this place is for other like-minded individuals. Perhaps maybe they knew of a specific Christian organization or some kind of grassroots organization that could help this family out. But because I used the word conservative, my post was flagged. It was removed, and I was reprimanded. I was told I violated the rules of the organization. But it was my understanding from their own rules that the purpose of this daily communication forum was for like-minded individuals to share in knowledge. I was really just looking for shared knowledge from people to help a student. The private school I worked at had more than 80% of their families that would identify as conservative. I needed the resources and knowledge that would help this student and this family and potential other students and other families. So while I tried to explain this to the NASAN official, it was said that I violated the rules by bringing in my own political ideology. That simply was not true. I wanted to help a student and their family with a very sensitive issue. But God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? Yes, he does. Between the short amount of time that I posted my question and it got shut down, I got more than 75 emails from around the United States. This was less than an hour time. So from Alaska to California, New York and Florida and everywhere in between, you nurses, you were the light when darkness tried to prevail. I have to admit, the responses, they were like interesting and supportive, but most importantly, it was heartbreaking. Almost all 75 of you said something to the effect of, "Wow, that was brave of you to say conservative. I have to live in a closet or I'll be fired. I would never dream of saying what you did. Great job. I hope you don't get in too much trouble for saying conservative." I literally stood at my computer in utter shock. What on earth was the NASA organization coming to? And why were all of these nurses so afraid to advocate for their students that they were caring for? My heart was absolutely devastated. I couldn't sleep for the next few nights. And maybe it was because I was 5 months pregnant with twins, but now looking back, I know that it was God stirring in me and lighting a candle that he wanted to see so brightly burning. Over the next few months, I continued to email with a few of those 75 people, but to be honest, after my babies were born in August of 2021, I was exhausted and I was too afraid to start something new. I needed my membership with NASA so I could conduct my PhD research. You see, I was 3 years into my PhD and I had a little over a year and a half left. I had already started my dissertation process and had gone through several stages of approval, and to start over was going to be way too difficult. And so I just decided I'm not going to say anything more. I don't want to trigger a response from NASA. I need to have access to their listserv so I could get my study fully conducted. I didn't want to lose my dissertation. It was too much. So for the next year, I just didn't participate in NASA anymore. I didn't want to be part of the organization that wanted to shut me down, when all I was doing was simply trying to help a student and the family. So I began researching other avenues to try to gather information, learn other things that I didn't know about. But as a side note, I have a really big mouth, and I was really fortunate enough to have really good friends and family that I could just confide my frustrations in. So essentially, for the past 2-3 years, it's just been a lot of lip service with no action to follow up on that. And no more, not doing that. It is time for action. It's time to play some offense, play some defense, and win this game. So fast forward to last September, I successfully defended my dissertation and I became the second Dr. Steele in our house. My husband has a PhD in engineering, so it's Dr. Steele and Dr. Steele, which is kind of a weird but cool feeling. Since I was 18 years old, I have been a mom. I got pregnant my senior year in high school, and I have been going to school and working 1 or 2 jobs ever since then. And I was just kind of at a loss of what to do with all of my free time. My twins were now over 1 year old. Our daughter was living and working in Washington, D.C., and our 2 boys were busy in elementary and secondary school. So I had a little bit of time, and this candle just started flickering again. And so I knew I needed to do something about that. So today, again, we are confessing the truth, because if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Looking back over the past 3 to 5 years, have you come across some kind of crazy situation and you thought to yourself, like, this doesn't even logically make sense? Well, I have been in the field of education since 2008, and let me tell you, hardly any logic is ever used or applied, and that is no different than it is today. But around 5 years ago, some colleagues and I were just flabbergasted at the ridiculousness of policies and demands just being handed down to us. So it just kind of became this common thing of saying, well, do not apply logic. And it was just a way to laugh and deal with the issues at hand. And I think we can all relate to how much logic has not been applied the past few years. And the same can actually get you through a lot of tough times. So if you're watching this podcast, you see that I'm holding up this little plaque that says, do not apply logic. And it's just a good way to simply, understand a new policy or situation. So let me show you how this works. Let's close our school downs for over a year. Do not apply logic. Let's tell students they can be a cat or a dog and install those litter boxes in school restrooms. Do not apply logic. Let's make sure every minority child in our school district is on a health plan to ensure equality and equity. Do not apply logic. Putting up a small, clear plastic board between you and the student will stop transmission of disease. Do not apply logic. Do you have a parent that thinks their child would never lie and always tells the truth? Do not apply logic. Have a helicopter parent? Definitely do not apply that logic, right? Have an annoying coworker that never seems to have their grades in or lessons plans due on time? Gee, do not apply logic. Have a teacher that forgot again about hall duty? Do not apply logic. Get the drift, right? It's so fun, and it can be used in all aspects of life. Like, for example, have a teenager that thinks he knows it all? Do not apply logic. Get into your spouse's vehicle and it's on empty? Do not apply logic. If you have a good do not apply logic situation to share, please email me at Megan, that's Megan, Megan at confessionsofaschoolnurse.com. Again, that's Megan at confessionsofaschoolnurse.com. And if you would like to help support this podcast, get your own Do Not Apply plaque or pin at confessionsofaschoolnurse.com. That's confessionsofaschoolnurse.com. Let me just tell you, the pins are a great way to get through those terrible meetings that require you to, turn that apply logic part of your brain off. You can just doodle and grin and knowing that you're applying logic. Trust me, it works. Again, go to confessionsofaschoolnurse.com to help support this show. School nurses, we are all uniquely positioned in the lives of students. We are trusted educators and trusted medical providers. Students, teachers, staff, parents, they all look to us for help and comfort, knowledge, and support. And we all get to share in those unique and unfortunately really sad situations. And I bet that all of you listening have snacks and food that you keep for those students that will be hungry when they get to school because you know they didn't have any food last night or all weekend. Some of you even pack special snacks and food to give to your students so they have food over the weekend. And I bet that you also have a blanket or pillow that you take home and wash frequently because a sweet kiddo didn't sleep at home and needs to nap in your office. We have all been there when we've had to tell a class of students that their friend would not be returning because she died in a horrific car accident. We have been there when we've been able to celebrate the joy of a student walking down the hall for the first time without using his walker because he has spina bifida and he's worked so hard to take those few steps. We've been there in a teacher meeting explaining a medical diagnosis that ends in death. We have cried with and comforted students who have lost a parent or teacher. And we get to share in the joy of our students' accomplishments, whether that be the first in their family to walk across the graduation stage or winning first place at the debate meet over the weekend. We school nurses, we are the trusted adults in the lives of our students. And as trusted adults, we must always confess the truth. Here is a term that I want you to remember. Herd instinct. Not herd immunity. Herd immunity would be applying logic. And we'll discuss that topic on another day. And I do have a lot to say about that. But herd instinct. Herd instinct has an extremely strong impulse to it. It essentially means that it is inherent to want to be like everybody else and not be an outcast. So for example, it's Dr. Seuss dress up week, right? Everyone wears red on Monday, blue on Tuesday, and we all do it because we want to be part of that herd, right? We don't want to be singled out. Another example that we could use in school is that everyone shows up late to the after school meeting. No need to stand out and, be there early, right? Because that would maybe apply logic. And I guess we shouldn't really always apply logic to school meetings because, it'd be logical to start on time and end on time. Okay. All right, sorry, let's get back. So herd instinct, right? It's just it's inherent to want to be part of the crowd. But some people use herd instinct as a form of a way to manipulate and like a way to control. So people will go along with something so they don't cause a scene. They don't want to get fired. They want to agree with someone so things just stay at the status quo. They want to maybe get a promotion so they just go along with it, right? It's just the status quo. So here's an example. You are putting your pronouns on your email signature. Status quo. Herd instinct. You might be flying the LGBTQIA flag at the bottom of all of your emails. The LGBTQIA plus. What does that plus even mean? Am I a plus? Are you a plus? Can someone is it like an animal? Like I don't understand. So if you truly know what the plus is at the end of LGBTQIA, could you please write me and let me know? It's Megan, Megan, Megan at confessionsofaschoolnurse.com. Like I truly have no idea, and I just want to know what that plus means. But also, as a side note, while we are discussing pronouns in the English language are meant to bring clarity to the language and conversation. They're not tools to validate a person's delusions about their identity. So when you include your pronouns at the end of your email or your name tag or your license plate or whatever it is, you are practicing herd instinct. You are supporting the false idea that gender is something to be declared or identified as, rather than the truth. And the truth is innate, right? It's natural, it's binary, it's male or female, nothing more. Another example of herd instinct in schools is really just the teaching the concepts that conflict with biology. You know as well as I do that this fuels identity confusion and anxiety. We are undermining our children's mental health and their ability to flourish in their lives by replacing real learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic, with teaching that is age and developmentally inappropriate. It is not okay to expose our children to graphic sexual information and provocative content that will have long-term consequences on their young and impressionable minds. As school nurses, we know this. We know that elementary and secondary and even some high school minds are not ready to see and hear this information. Hell, I'm a 38-year-old married woman, and some of this information is absolutely disgusting. So why are we standing by and allowing it? Why is talking sexually in the workplace considered sexual harassment, but talking about sexuality to children in elementary school is considered, and I quote, essential? Someone please tell me why. Perhaps I'm applying logic where I shouldn't, but it is time to stand for the truth. And the truth is, this is harmful and needs to stop. I guess I should, also be honest right here. And really for the next few podcasts going forward, I'm going to be calling out the National Association of School Nurses. And I am calling them out because they are not following the basic art of compassion and ethics and science. They are weaponizing you to be members of their political ideology by supporting evil and false information, and shame on them for doing so. So to begin this, we'll start with one of the first reasons why I'm calling them out. And it's their position on the statement for LGBTQ students. It's appalling and flat out disgusting. If you haven't read it, go to their webpage and Google position statements and then look for the one titled LGBTQ. It'll make your blood boil. And here is an example. Here's a quote from their position statement. Quote, "We," meaning school nurses, "we should assure LGBTQ youth that their identities and feelings are normal and appropriate." Excuse me? No. It is not normal and it is not appropriate. Do you want to know what is normal? Normal is not liking the way you look because you feel fat or are out of shape or have that gigantic, really big zit in the middle of your forehead. Teenage hormones just, when they start going, they make you feel funny and crazy and irritable and maybe a little bit on the bitchy side. That's normal. Wanting to cut off your God-given genitals to become the opposite sex is delusional and unhealthy. These students have gender dysphoria, multiple personality disorder, or some other major mental health issue going on. And that, my friends, is what we need to support. Another position statement, just continuing to read on, it states, and I quote, "barring an explicit legal obligation." I don't know what they mean by explicit legal obligation, but I have an obligation to inform parents of things going on with their children, just so you know. But back to the quote, it says, "barring an explicit legal obligation, school nurses should respect confidentiality and not disclose a student's sexual orientation or gender identity to others, including parents or guardians, without permission from the students." Again, no. And not only no, but a big fat hell no. I am not going to support these students in their delusions. They need help. Real mental and medical help. And hiding their issues and concealing them are evil. That is evil. School nurses should never hide, let alone encourage children's mental health challenge behind their parents' back. It is psychologically and biologically abusive to urge a child to not accept their body's gender. There is a real reason that medical ethics prohibits unlicensed and untrained people to provide therapy to students. So why in the world would I, as a school nurse, provide that therapy and keep secrets for children. I won't. And here's the deal. I have and will continue to treat these students with the same dignity and compassion that I treat all students with. Every student deserves a compassionate nurse that practices with empathy. I think I can relate this to one of my favorite stories as a working nurse in the hospital. And I didn't realize till years later the impact that this story and this experience that I had would have on me in my nursing career. So years ago, I was working in an ICU. I had 2 patients. In one room, I had this tiny, frail, white, very elderly female. She was dying from cancer. She was very well known in the community. She had multiple visitors in and out of her room. She was in the final days of her life. The goal was to keep her comfortable and let her pass peacefully, right? My other patient was this large African-American man. He had been convicted of murder, and he was on life support for liver failure. He was handcuffed to the bed, and a guard stood at his door. No visitors, no nothing. The guards would change shift every 12 hours. That was the only people besides me and the other care team members in and out of his room. But guess what? Those 2 patients who were completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum both received the same compassionate, ethical, evidence-based care. I treated both of them with kindness, respect, and empathy, because that is what nurses do. That is what Jesus would do. That's what I do, and that's what I do all the time. And I know that you do this. I know that you have multiple experiences like this. Some of you may be hiding out of fear, and if that's you, make today be different. Make today be the day that you stand for the truth. Let's take a little bit dive more into the position statement that NASN has for the LGBTQ students. It also states that I should hang a pride flag or post a safe space sticker or poster in my office. Not happening. How about we, post an American flag because we're all Americans? Or how about we put a poster up that says, I stand for the truth? Why don't we just be the kind and caring school nurse that all students know they can come to? Because when times are tough and they need the help and the support, they know that we're going to provide that compassion, and they know that we're going to provide that truth to be able to help them. I don't even know what the field of school nursing is anymore. What is it coming to? What is our education system coming to? Let's really put this into perspective. Students have to have a signed parent permission form to go to the zoo on a class field trip. But I can give children puberty blocking pills to change their gender without their parents knowing. Where's the logic in that one? Just so you know, over the next few podcasts, I will also be breaking down some transgenderism. I'll be talking about the what I refer to it as the school to scalpel pipeline. They go to school, they go under the scalpel to change their gender, that pipeline. Yeah, we're going to break that down a little bit more. These students have real mental health issues, and they need help. And we're going to provide a little bit of resources for you to help combat that issue. But bringing it forth on a truth, not a political ideology. All right, moving on again with NASN. Did you know that they supported a paper titled Consideration for School Nurses, Health Equity Implications During COVID-19 Pandemic? I didn't know they supported that. Go to their website. You can find this paper. Again, it's called Considerations for School Nurses, Health Equity Implications During COVID-19 Pandemic. And here is a quote from the paper. School nurses can work towards health equity within their community by identifying racial discrimination and disparities that affect students' health and education. My question is, why are we defining students by the color of their skin? Seriously, everything in this world and in our education system has become so dang black and white. I am so concerned that our students are being taught that the color of their skin is the most important thing about them, and that they either have to bear collective guilt or shame for being white, or they have to realize that they are a non-white victim. This obsession with race and gender that has taken root in our educational system is evil, and it is causing educators and school nurses to be so distracted that we're not even addressing the shocking decline in academic achievement and the mental health crisis occurring. And on another note, I need to just make it well known that I worry most about our vulnerable kids. And these are low-income and minority children who are implicitly told they are helpless victims with no power or ability to shape their own futures. Children should never be divided by the economic status of their parents or guardians, and they as sure as hell should not be divided by the color of their skin. And what I feel like we as nurses don't understand is really this definition of equity, because it's encompassing everything these days. And I think that we need to truly apply some logic and really look at what equity means versus the equity that's being shoved down our throat from national organizations and teachers' unions. Equity, if you look at the dictionary, like a dictionary from 1985, right? One that has not been politically motivated and changed. So go to your library, pull out that dictionary, dust it off a little bit, and go to equity. And if you do that, equity, it says that it provides various levels of support and assistance depending on specific needs or abilities of certain groups. Okay, I'm going to repeat that because that was a lot. Equity describes providing various levels of support and assistance depending on specific needs or abilities of certain groups. Okay, so based on that definition, I would think that most of us could get on board with supporting that. Like, we're kind of torn, like, well, that's a good definition. I do agree with that, but I'm confused because that's not what's being shoved down our throats. So let me give you this example, and then we'll look at it from like a definition that we could get behind versus the definition, again, being shoved down our throats. So let's say that you have two students in your office, right? And they're both receiving medical treatment. They each have a different condition, and we know that different conditions call for different treatment measures. Both of these students were only in our office for 10 minutes, and they returned to class. Okay, so we can say that equity was there because each student got their needs met, right? We could do another example in a school saying that two students, they got different amounts of detention time, right? Because the detention time fit the negative choice that was made. So this would be an equitable system, right? It's a system that is perceived to be fair. Equity exists when people have been treated fairly. So do you still feel like you could get behind this definition of equity? Yeah, me too. I totally can. But again, this is the old definition of equity. It's in that dictionary you had to dust off. But here is where the two problems come in with equity. First is the word fair. What is fair to you may not be fair to me, and vice versa. And what is fair to you may not be fair in today's society or in the school culture that you're in. So if we just, look at the students that were in your office, right? They were both receiving medical care. Equity could be that one student is upset because the other student got crackers for their treatment, but he had to get a shot for his insulin that he needed for his diabetes. So this student is upset because he wasn't treated fairly. We know that we treated each student for the medical condition that they had, but the student says that we weren't providing equitable care because he didn't get any crackers. He just got an insulin shot. Do you see how crazy this is? But this is really how people are using the definition of equity. And here's the other little trick that's played with equity. Again, let's focus on the 2 students that were in our office, right? I just told you they had a medical condition and that you were providing evidence-based care for them. But now, take out what they were in your office for and only focus on their socioeconomic level, their ethnicity, their race, their sex, or quite frankly, their lack of sex, and then treat them differently because of that. Don't look at them at their medical condition, just treat them differently because of their socioeconomic, ethnicity, race, or sex. That is what is equity these days. And we are being told and groomed to focus only on those characteristics and not the actual medical condition. That is truth. That is what is happening. And when we give special treatment to disadvantaged groups or students, it is not okay. Technically, it's actually extremely harmful to those that it's, quote, trying to help, because it tells them that they need special help. It encourages this victim mentality that students have. It discourages personal responsibility and effort, and it deprives them of the growth that happens when they overcome obstacles. So I guess my definition of equity in schools would be this. How about we ensure equity by striving to identify the root causes of poor outcomes and then allocate our school resources to interventions so that every student can advance academically so they can be productive citizens in society? I also believe that equity in education means helping differently talented students realize their full potential and helping them develop that grit and resilience that they will need to overcome obstacles in the real world, because we all know the real world will throw them at them. I believe it is an absolute tragedy that our schools have moved so far away from their mission to provide children with a great education that would launch them in the world to be successful adults. It is absolutely disheartening. And while I'm continuing to pick on NASN, let's talk about their other position brief titled, quote, Eliminate Racism to Optimize Student Health and Learning. In this position brief, again, you can go to their website and read these briefs and these position statements, but they state that racism is a public health crisis. I'm going to say that again because it just doesn't seem logical that this is being said. NASN, the National Association of School Nurses, they state that racism is a public health crisis. I thought public health was supposed to promote the welfare of the entire population, not just a population that, is white. Okay. Trying to apply logic, holding up my sign, do not apply logic, taking a deep breath. Okay, public health. Public health is supposed to protect communities from the spread of infectious diseases, environmental hazards, and is supposed to ensure access to safe and quality care. So I'm not so sure how racism fits into that, and if they could provide some real examples, that would be beneficial. But this document continues to state, and I quote, NASN holds that to optimize student health, safety, and learning, students and adults in schools and school systems must model anti-racist systems and behaviors. Must model anti-racist systems and behaviors. What does anti-racist systems even mean? Well, I got you covered. Have you heard of CRT, critical race theory? Anti-racism is defined as the idea of opposing racism by promoting racial equality. Well, how damaging. It is just damaging to teach a child of any race that they are oppressed and live in a society that will continue to oppress them. Why not build this child up and teach them to exceed the minimum grade standards and make them ready for success? That sounds like something I can definitely stand for, and I'm sure you can too. I will continue to speak up for these kids who can't speak for themselves, and speak for those that are being deceived by those who exploit them for their own ideological gain. So let's get this straight. Diversity is important. It means that people are coming together for sharing of knowledge, morals, and ethics. That's diversity. The diversity we're being shoved down our throats with is that it has everything to do with race, sex, ethnicity, and gender. And that, my friends, is not truthful. This Nation position statement also continues to state, and I quote, "An example of the impact of racism is residential segregation that results in segregated schools that limit diversity and equity." Well, I don't know about you, but this sure sounds like a perfect case for school choice, because why do we let a zip code define a child's success? It's all so sad. It's just laughable. But I'll cover some more CRT in upcoming podcasts. As you can tell, I've got a lot of podcasts lined out with some truth to help you stand in and be firm at your line that you are drawing in the sand. And lastly, I'm starting this podcast to support science, and the real science, the science that, existed in like 2018, not this, quote, trust the expert science, because that's what's being shoved down our throats. Trust the experts is just another way of saying not to trust your own knowledge, and not to trust your own eyes, and not to trust your own intuition, and definitely don't trust your own common sense. And lastly, do not apply logic. While it may seem that I might get a little political during these podcasts, I need you to know that I firmly believe that it is not enough to be Republican, to be Democrat, to be independent, or, oh my goodness, conservative. We must cover ourselves with the full armor of God and fight for Him as our first priority. And fighting for Him is confessing the truth, speaking the truth, standing for the truth, and being the truth. And you know what? Truth is contagious. And the more you tell the truth, the stronger you will become. And you will be filled with this amazing power. And this power will transform your life and the lives of the students that you care for. So this is where I stand, and I encourage you to stand with me. I refuse to deny the importance and reality of biological sex. I refuse to stand by while opportunistic boys take over women's sports. I refuse to stay silent about rules which violate women's privacy in bathrooms and locker rooms. I refuse to revise a basic part of human speech to appease a sick subset of society. I refuse to fund the mutilation of children's bodies through government programs or because of a parent's psychosis. And I refuse to be silenced in the face of a cancel culture which seeks to normalize and weaponize mental illness. School nurses, as this first podcast is coming to an end, I'd like to leave you with a little challenge. And I'll be doing this with every podcast, because each time we challenge ourselves, we get stronger and it becomes easier to stand for the truth. But because, this is the first podcast, I'm going to leave you with two. And I'm doing this mainly, I guess, as I've been going through this podcast for the past few minutes, I just realized that we need to spend more time talking to God and talking with Him. There are days that I feel like I spend a lot of time in prayer, and other days I may get a quick prayer with my husband before bed. And honestly, if I fall asleep on the couch, which happens quite often, then the praying doesn't happen. But standing, speaking, and being the truth is going to be hard, and we need God. So say a little prayer. And if you already say a prayer a day, then say two. And here's the second challenge. This challenge is to end your NASA membership. And you might be thinking, wowzers, Megan, who do you think you are? Well, if what I have said to you today directly from their website doesn't cause you to stop and think, then I'm not so sure what will. And I'm not so sure that this podcast is going to be for you. The National Association of School Nurses is supposed to serve as our voice, but they do not serve as mine. Stop sending them your money to promote political ideologies. You may be thinking your state membership might be tied to NASN. Call or email your state leadership and tell them you don't want to be a NASN member. You just want to be a state member. And if your states are promoting these same things, then drop your state membership. Because ending your membership is easy. You go to your account, you select stop membership. Don't click on those little boxes of why. Click on other and then type, I am a nurse who stands for truth and science, not political ideologies. I know that a few nurses ending their membership is not going to cause much of an issue. But multiple nurses ending their memberships all across the United States will cause them to see trends in their comments. And they're going to have to look at those. And when they see that nurses are saying no more, maybe they will listen to us, or maybe we need to form our own. I know that these two challenges are small, and I hope that they're easy to do for you. But let's do them together. And let me know how they're going. Send me an email. It's Megan, M-E-G-A-N, Megan at confessionsofaschoolnurse.com. We're in this together, friends. And that's it for today. Share this podcast with your closet conservatives because you know who they are. That's right, you do. Share this with your fellow school nurses that aren't closet conservatives. You want to make them mad, you need to make them apply a little bit of logic, right? Go ahead and share that with your teachers too. They also need to be empowered to stand against their massive teachers' unions. Share this on all of your social media outlets. Let's get the word out. Let's get our team built. It is time to play some offense and defense. And until next time, confess to tell the truth. God bless.